Jonathan Ayling from the Free Speech Union. Kia ora, how are you?
Very well, sir. Yes, out and about. We had a couple of fantastic public meetings down in the north of the South Island. Blenheim Friday night, Nelson Saturday night. Hundreds turning out for free speech. It's fantastic.
That is absolutely brilliant. Now, we'll circle back to Blenheim in just a moment. But, last time we were chatting, you had a meeting scheduled with the police commissioner last Wednesday. There was a bit on the table there discussing, in particular, some police training resources, teaching police recruits how to spot hate, and some pretty dodgy stuff in that space. How did that conversation go, Jonathan?
Look, Andrew, from the outset, I guess I'll say that it was a very frank but a conversation had in very good faith. It was, we have different views on this. We also kind of went in there not wanting to publicly unpack all the comments that we had there, so we won't get into the details of that conversation too much. I guess generally what we'd say is that police have instructed a review of this material, that portions of the training that we were most concerned by have already been slated as not to be included moving forward, and so we're really pleased by that. But overall, I would say police have got this wrong and are continuing to move forward with some pretty fundamental flaws, I would suggest. You look at what's happening in the UK right now, and I think the UK is a real cautionary tale for what relatively easily could occur in New Zealand as well. And I don't want to, by any means whatsoever, question the good intentions or the good faith of those working in the space. But good intentions put aside, it is still very easy to mean well and do harm. And what was somewhat telling within the conversation was the impression that that the Free Speech Union is doing damage to faith in the police by highlighting and running comms on this issue. And I would suggest that actually there is a declining trust in many of our institutions. The media is certainly one, and police and the public service is another. We agree that that's an issue, but we'd probably say the issue is that these institutions are becoming less trustworthy than simply trying to point the finger at those that are pointing out that maybe we shouldn't trust them. And so,
this is at the hub of free speech, right? I mean, if the police are doing nothing wrong, then you wouldn't need to have this conversation. If you didn't have concerns, then it's like, okay, you've got other things to be getting on with. That the police commissioner is hinting, well, we wish you wouldn't say things publicly because that's embarrassing to us. I mean, that's taking an axe to the root of free speech.
I would suggest that transparency and accountability are uncomfortable. And I think the commissioner himself is very willing to bear that. And I don't think he's not suggesting that we not be allowed to speak about it. But I would say that, I go into many meetings with people who go, oh, well, if you just contacted us quietly and we just discussed this, maybe that would have been a little bit better. I'm sure it would have been better for them, at least. They, some of these people get caught with their hands in the cookie jar and they don't want it publicized. But actually, that is the role. The Free Speech Union is not a polite, in the tent, respected think tank. We are an activist group. We are a trade union, and we are supported by over 100,000 Kiwis saying the direction that we've taken on this issue has been unhelpful for too long. And we're trying to point the boat in the different direction. But Mr. Commissioner, stop arresting people under wrongful arrest. We've currently got 3 cases there. We might think about our tone once we're not fighting you on people actually just expressing their basic speech rights.
Jonathan, I got your back. I'd never call you polite. Exactly. And honestly, when important things need to be said, they need to be said. So an organisation which has very much changed its tone, though, I know that you were kind of, not bashing heads, that's too aggressive, but certainly court action was involved, a conversation between yourself and the Blenheim or the Marlborough District Council, particularly about their libraries and who's allowed and who's not allowed to speak. Now, the Free Speech Union apparently allowed to speak at the libraries in Blenheim. Is it story time with Jonathan Ayling? What's happening here?
I'm not sure many would show up for that, though, maybe just to counter protest. What we had there, Andrew, and you covered this story a few weeks ago, was the fact that Blenheim Library had decided that they would redo their facility, spend millions of dollars on creating this fantastic new library there.
Yeah.
But then when a few ratepayers come knocking, asking to use those facilities, would say, nah, we don't think, quote, you're inclusive enough to be able to use these facilities, jog on. They knew who to contact, and that was the Free Speech Union. We got in touch with them pretty quick. We did make a public note about this as well and called them out on this. And to the absolute credit of the chief executive at the Marlborough District Council and his staff, the legal team there as well, they responded in very good faith. They said, we got this wrong. How do we make it right?
Okay.
And we said, you need to issue an apology, you need to change the policy, and you need to have us down to do a training. And they were up for all those things.
Okay.
Now, I say all that, Andrew, and then at the same time, they kind of then wanted to hold our feet to the fire over the tone that we ran on this as well. And again, you broke the law.
Yeah.
You abused basic rights around speech. And what, you want us to thank you for apologizing now? We're not going to thank you for apologizing. You should be thanking us for not taking you to court. And so I appreciate the good faith, and I think sound minds can move forward. I think this is a good example of a constructive story where people are willing to say, hang on a second, what do we do to make this right? And we're able to move forward, and I think we're all better as a result. And our team walked away with some helpful comments from their team as well. But we're not going to thank the police commissioner for meeting with us when over 10,000 Kiwis have spoken out in concern. We're not going to thank the Marlborough District Council for apologizing when they got them wrong. We'll appreciate the apology. We'll take the meeting, and we'll move forward as constructively as we can.
You've got a ministry gift in microaggression, I tell you that. But I don't mean that in a bad way, Jonathan. And good to see that hey, conversations are being had. People are open to change their views and opinions on that. And honestly, if you weren't a little bit like a bulldog chewing a wasp on this one, if you weren't turning up to the police commissioner, if it was just you and a couple of mates turning up instead of you and a multiple thousand petition signature, then it wouldn't have this influence. This is, I suppose, how we get the attention of those in authority to say, hey, there are some concerned citizens that have a different view on this one. Thank you for your bolshiness. Thank you for what you do. If people wanted to find out more about Free Speech Union, what's the best way to get in contact?
Always best to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, Free Speech Union on there, on our website, fsu.nz. You can subscribe along with over 100,000 Kiwis to get our updates. Polite people don't change the world, Andrew. Yeah. And so we're going to stick at it.
Thanks for joining us. Cheers. Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.